Shabbat Shalom. This morning, our family had a big moment. Rabbi Carly and I accompanied our daughter Amalia to meet her kindergarten teacher ahead of the first day of school next week. It's an exciting milestone, and we're looking forward to a year filled with growth, discovery, and possibility. It brought to mind Robert Fulghum's well-known bestseller, All I Really Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten. But tonight I'm thinking about another New York Times bestseller, one of Amalia's favorite picture books, The Rabbit Listened. In the story, a young child named Taylor is faced with something sad, and he doesn't know where to turn. One by one, animals come to help. The chicken wants to talk it out, but Taylor doesn't feel like chatting. The bear thinks Taylor should get angry, but that doesn't seem quite right either. Each animal suggests a different way to fix a problem, but none of them help. Then comes the rabbit. The rabbit doesn't try to fix anything. Instead, the rabbit just listens. And that's exactly what Taylor needs. Long before there were not rabbits, but rabbis standing on bimas like this one, preaching sermons in sanctuaries like ours, our tradition offered us stories. In Judaism, stories aren't just for children. They're for all of us. We use them to remember where we've come from, to wrestle with what matters, to learn how to live lives of meaning, and to imagine who we're called to be. Pertinent to this season of Elul, the weeks leading up to Rosh Hashanah, the founder of Hasidism, Reb Nachman of Bratslav, taught, "There are many who have fallen into deep spiritual sleep. There are others who are in such a deep slumber that they don't even know they're asleep. The only way to wake people up," he says, "is through stories. The stories can awaken and revive them." Rabbi Jonathan Sacks comments on our listening culture, a way of understanding the world that Sacks teaches is unique to our Jewish people. The West, when it speaks of understanding, uses metaphors of sight. We talk of insight, foresight, and hindsight, of making an observation, of people of vision. When we express an opinion, we say, "It appears to me." When we want someone to concentrate, we say, "Look." When we understand something, we say, "I see." These come to the West from ancient Greece. Rabbi Sacks of blessed memory taught that Jewish tradition is different. For the Greeks, truth is what we see. For Jews, it's what we hear. For example, when the Talmud brings a proof text, it says, "Come and hear." When it wants to signal agreement, it says, "I hear." And when someone disagrees with a proof, it says roughly, "He didn't hear it." This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, for the rabbis of the Talmud were inheritors of an oral tradition. As the story goes, Moses received both Torah shebichtav, written Torah, and Torah sheba'al peh, the oral Torah, atop Mount Sinai. The written Torah generally refers to the 5 books of Moses scribed in those scrolls in our Holy Ark, while the oral Torah was passed from generation to generation and only relatively recently recorded as Mishnah and Talmud and the many other rabbinic compilations. The Mishnah's content, for example, was at one time preserved by young people who were entrusted to memorize it. And then, upon request, would recall the material verbatim for their teachers and students. Thankfully, Mishnah is now easily accessible in print and online. However, much of our tradition, including the prayer books that we use on Shabbat and holidays, was for a very long time preserved only orally, from teacher to student, heard by one person to another. An awareness of our unique listening culture is particularly important in understanding this week's Torah portion, Parashat Ve'etchanan. It's in this week's Torah portion that we read, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai alone. One medieval commentator teaches that Moses' intention in this week's Torah portion is to implore the people to listen with an open mind, open to God's creation and divine presence. The emphasis on listening lies at the heart of the unique intimacy Jews feel with God. Because there is speech, there is relationship. Words bridge the metaphysical abyss between soul and soul. The difference for us, however, is that we're not always ready to hear God's voice or each other's. It's so easy to be distracted by other noise or our own shtick. A story is told when God appears to the prophet Elijah. God instructs Elijah, "Go out and stand out at the mountain, for the Eternal is about to pass by." Then a great and powerful wind tore the mountain apart and shattered the rocks. But the Eternal was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but God was not in the earthquake either, our text tells us. After the earthquake came fire, but God was not in the fire. And after the fire came a still small voice. That still small voice, not the strong wind, nor the earthquake, nor the fire, but the unexpected still small voice, our tradition teaches is where God dwells. Indeed, remarkable things happen when we listen. Not to fix or to judge, or heaven forbid we confuse listening with simply waiting for the other person to finish so that we can talk again. We can all do a bit more listening these days to deepen relationships, strengthening our shared mission, making the world a better, more whole place for everyone. This is precisely why the greatest of all commands, the one that we read this week in Parashat Ve'etchanan, the first Jewish words we learn as young children, is Shema Yisrael. Listen. Now we understand why, as we say those words, we cover our eyes to shut out, if only for a moment, the world of sight, so that we can more fully enter that world of sound, the world not of creation, but of revelation, not of God's works, but God's word, the world we cannot see, but which, if we create an open, attentive silence in the soul, we can hear. As we prepare for the season of reflection and return, may we enter it like the rabbit in Amalia's story, not rushing to speak or to solve, but creating space for what needs to be heard. For the voice of God, the needs of our loved ones, the pain of our community, the wisdom of our tradition, and the truth within ourselves. Like Taylor in the story, we each carry moments of joy and sorrow, questions and hopes. And like the people Moses addressed in this week's Torah portion, we are invited to listen, not just with our ears, but with our hearts. So let us begin the journey to the High Holy Days, not with grand proclamations, but with the stillness and strength it takes to truly listen to ourselves, to each other, to the voice of the divine that speaks softly when we're ready to hear it. Shabbat Shalom.